awesome afternoon, magnificent evening, and wonderful morning. This is Carla from Mindpoint with Carla and Friends. And we are not live today. We are live, but you won't be able to watch us live because we're having some internet issues. I don't know if it's Zoom or Restream or whatever, but we are here to speak about imagination and what imagination does to us in the world. The topic is imagination. See it, be it, believe.
Become it.
Thank you. And when we're talking about imagination, it's where our minds are. If we don't think something's going to work, it's not going to work. But if we want to just imagine what is actually happening, then we can make it work. We may have to do many trials to make it work, but we definitely can make whatever we want come true. Walt Disney once said, and I don't have the exact words, if you can see it and imagine it, you can make it happen. And look at Disneyland. Look at Disneyland in all different parts of the world. So having said that, Jean, do you want to do what you normally do? And we will get this show off the road, onto the road.
Yeah, onto the road is better than off the road. Yeah, off the road means down into a ditch. Oh, childhood memories. So
imagination there, Gene.
Exactly. Imagination can be really powerful. So I want to share something that Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Seagull many years ago. It's an iconic book. To bring anything into your life, imagine that it's already there. Very powerful. And Albert Einstein, who's one of our leading inventors, writes, logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. So there are no boundaries. You can do whatever you want. And finally, George Bernard Shaw, the great writer, writes, imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire, you will what you imagine, and at last you create what you will. So it's very, very powerful.
How much time does everyone have? Because we could go live on Facebook only.
I'm available until 12:30, so I had an hour for you.
Okay.
Yes, snap. I can do till 5:30. So.
Okay, go on, Jean.
Well, we can imagine that we're going to have lots of viewers who are going to watch this after we produce the show, which is great, because we can ask them to share it widely. And the power of imagination is amazing, and yet we stop using it, a lot of us, when we're children, when we think we're adults. And I've been watching my grandkids as they grow. They're just, one is 9 months and one is almost 3. And it's amazing how they can entertain themselves with almost nothing. They just, my granddaughter at 9 months just puts her hand up and can stare at it. I'd swear she's in a meditative state when she's doing that, and my grandson speaks a lot. I'm not sure what he's saying, but I imagine that we're having a conversation because I will respond as if. So it's a very powerful tool that we need to reconnect with. Mirza, you're shaking your head.
Imagination is our God-given responsibility. And today I'm like a ultrasonic speed, high data transfer rate person, but I'm gonna slow down. So based on the user's feedback. So imagination is our God's given gift that we must exercise to everything that you see in the world, all the material objects. They're born twice. First in somebody's imagination, then in reality. Because whatever mind can imagine, it can visualize, it can materialize. Whatever mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That unseen in the imaginative world, in visualization world, control the seen, unseen from unseen to seen. That metaphysical converts stuff into physical. The esoteric converts stuff into exoteric. So this is where, like that God-given, every major innovation or invention that you see in the world of computers and disruptive and exponential technologies that are taking the world by storm are born out of that God-given facility and faculty. I think Carla is trying to say something. Carla?
Slow down.
Okay.
But that makes me think of this, Post-it notes,
Absolutely.
which, came out of 3M, but it wasn't what they wanted. But when they saw it, they marketed it, and it's changed our lives. I love Post-it notes.
Yeah. It goes back to what Einstein says. Logic can take you from point A to point B, but imagination can take you around everywhere. That is something that put a man on the moon, to the vision and mission with the Mars and so on and so forth,
Yeah. Nigel, you're sitting there just nodding and staring at us through the thousands and thousands of internet miles.
Yep, and smiling away when you were talking about your grandchild of 9 months old, and having a conversation that I'm sure you might not understand, but they do. If we could only speak baby, then we'd be in great shape. As I was with both of my grandchildren over the last couple of days, and yeah, they were entertaining. They were very vocal, and I didn't understand one word they were saying. So it reminds me actually of IKEA. Now you've got IKEA over in the States, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
IKEA? IKEA? Or yeah.
IKEA, yeah.
Flat pack. Flat pack with instructions that people can't understand, apart from kids. And if you go onto YouTube and you look at some of the adverts that IKEA were putting out last year, they were all of children in having a party at home, where all of a sudden the parents are handing out all the fruit and the drinks, etc. And then you see it through kids' eyes. You see one parent's dressed up as a bear, another one's dressed up as a giraffe. Kids have an amazing opportunity that we don't have as adults, and that's to use our imagination. Our imagination is used only by entrepreneurs, and I'm talking about real entrepreneurs, not the majority of entrepreneurs. So I'm talking about those that can visualize something, put it down on paper, and get someone else actually to make it look good. And again, we've got some great examples. The film Peter Pan. I remember watching a remake, because I don't know how many Peter Pan films there have been, but it was the one where Robbie Williams was in, and he goes back as an old Peter Pan.
Hook.
And they're all sitting there. Yeah, Hook, exactly. And they're all sitting there at the table, and he says, well, where's the food? And they say, just it's there, Peter. All you've got to do is open your eyes. And when he does open his eyes eventually, all of a sudden, all of this colourful food appears, and he joins in. And he's there in an imaginary world having a lot of fun. And that's where entrepreneurs are. So to me, entrepreneurs are just big 4-year-olds. They've never learned to grow up.
Absolutely.
And just before we move on, I want to quote, because we're into quotes today, so that's absolutely fine. I want to quote the great philosopher R. Kelly. You know him?
Okay.
If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. What's the next line of the song? I believe I can fly.
I believe I can fly. Yeah.
I believe I can fly. That's enough. Right.
That's right.
Let's go. The key,
You have
you know,
the
you've got to
words.
start believing it. What do you say, Carla?
Do you have the words to the song that you just?
How do you think I remembered it? Yeah.
Why didn't
I'm
you?
not going to sing.
You don't need to sing it, but could you
Good.
read it to us?
Yeah, I can read some of it. It starts off with pretty dowdy stuff, which most musicians start off with these days, writers. I used to think I couldn't go on, and life was nothing but an awful song. But now I know the meaning of true love. I'm learning on the everlasting arms. If I can see it, I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day, spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through the open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. You always have to say these things 3 times because it's the mantra, isn't it?
Yes.
I can, I can, I can. I will, I will, I will. So, fantastic song. I say, great philosopher, but he's not really. Just
I'd like the text to the song later.
Yeah. Sometimes our artists are flawed humans. That's all I can say.
yeah, well, these the best songs really do come from the heart and experiences. So, and there's some fantastic songs out there. You just have to.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to share my story with you. When I was like 10, 11, I saw a jet aircraft flying before me, and some of my friends were like, "Hey, those are the fighter pilots." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be one." I imagine myself being there. They're like, "Not you're not gonna be able to do it." Why? Because there are some special people who are going to fly. But that was in my imagination. Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So there was a time for me that I've served in Air Force, and I was literally flying aircrafts. So it goes back to Neville that you know it's all over here. Even our life, we live at the level of our imagination. The quality of our thoughts and imagination will determine the quality of our life. Spirit lies within. So.
That's very powerful, Mirza. To be touched with that kind of vision at such a young age, it is important to point out that it can happen.
Our limitation only exists in our mind, So our decision is a function of our vision, and our vision is a function of our decision.
And I want to point out that even though we're using the word vision, it's not always such lofty ideas when we do our vision. Sometimes it's about things that you do throughout the day. If you are constantly complaining, what's going to come is something for you to complain about. And if you're constantly trying to churn the channels, so you're going like, okay, that was interesting, I learned something, then you're going to constantly find something that you're going to learn. And it's become trite, actually, to say, mind where your thoughts are, because we say it all the time. But truly, even at my storied age, I'm still learning about limiting beliefs, because there are some beliefs that we have that we never saw them as limiting. And then as you change your perspective, you go, oh, that's what keeps me doing this over and over. I mean, there's many times that I've looked up to the sky and said, okay, I've learned this lesson. Can we move on? Well, apparently I hadn't, because I keep learning it until I finally go, I've learned the lesson. And sometimes the lesson is as simple as saying, okay, voice inside my head, it's time for you to shut up. You know, the most powerful lesson I had for imagination was to envision the rewind. Okay, it was back in the videotape days, because we don't really do that often anymore, but rewind and erase. You know, I was working with a hypnotherapist on stress management, actually, not on any, you know, any mindset things, but on stress management. And she said, now just erase in your mind what you went through. Now look at it from a different perspective. And it's very powerful. And that's a great way to use your imagination to re-picture or re-story the story. I got it. Your turn, Carla.
It's not actually a thing of my turn, but if we're saying the 2-minute rule,
Oh, I know, that's fine.
the 10-minute rule doesn't work anymore. But talking about imagination, you know, I imagined this show at one point, and it became a real thing. I imagined, of course, I was pushed by Rayhan to do the English show. And I thought, where is it going to go? And how are we going to get it throughout the world? And now I have people from Pakistan, Vietnam, China, Ecuador coming to speak in English. So we may imagine something to happen, but it may not happen at the time we expect it to happen. It'll happen at a different time. And we just need to be patient. And Neville, you're nodding your head. What are you thinking?
I was just thinking about imagining the best or the worst. So I'll focus on the millennium bug that never happened. But we spent 3 years in our organization going through all of the possible combinations of what might happen. And probably, I never took count of it, but we would have had in excess of 50,000 PCs around the world, desktops, towers, loads of monitors, loads of valves that were either manual or automatically opening up. And we had to go through the ringer, and we had to imagine not necessarily what was there, because we could see it. We had to imagine what wasn't there, because it'd been put in like 20 years earlier, and we didn't know whether valves were underneath the ground we couldn't see, or no valves at all, because the records were so poor. So you had to use your imagination to fill in the gaps. Today, you might call it decision making, you know, but there's nothing worse than trying to imagine what a jigsaw looks like when 30% of the pieces are missing. And that's when we literally have to tap into our experience.
And that's an interesting point. I remember traveling at that point. I was in Italy and Germany. And before I was going, people were saying, you know, you may not get back. And I said, well, maybe that'll be good for the schools that I don't get back. I don't know. But they were saying with the planes may not be flying, and all kinds of things. And nothing happened. You know, I got back on time. I think I took a day off when I was coming back. But it wasn't because that whole thing that we imagined happening, the world breaking down, ever happened. Mirza?
No, I totally echo with you. I mean, we always say with the imagination that size of your success has to do with the size of your imagination, how big you think, and how you think controls everything. Now, coming back to on the topic, seeing like so many self-doubts and ambiguities were there. And I'm going to slow down because I have an accent.
No, it's not because of your accent. It's
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
people have trouble understanding.
Yeah. So I'm going to slow down.
Not
So,
you.
so
I mean, it is you, but it's not you. Go
right.
on.
So imaginatively, you had an end result and you were able to make it. Now, talking about the topic that we have today is when you see it, you're able to be it. Because I was able to visualize myself that I can fly these multi-million-dollar jet aircraft at a supersonic or high, breaking the sound barrier. And I was able to see it. Then I became one in a fighter flying and fighter pilots and all that. It was a very challenging and tough job. It was a very mission critical. But you be someone and then you do it. And then it becomes part of your identity and reality. So that imaginative part is extremely very important. That is backed by the action. And your feelings will follow your action all the time. But again, the basic fundamental ingredient of everything is you imagining yourself or imagining on yourself, you betting on yourself on a highest degree, because the size of your success has to do with the size of your imagination. In the Silicon Valley, when we do a startup, we say have a moonshot thinking, have a Mars level thinking. And last few cents, look at Elon Musk. He merely started with a childhood dream, imagination. Now he literally made that happen. That is true entrepreneurial energy and spirit that takes something from conception to implementation, from nowhere to somewhere. So everything lies upon that exercising God-given gift of imagination. Over to you.
See, that's where I think your story, Mirza, about seeing a jet fighter in the air, it popped your imagination. Now imagine you're Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, and there's nothing out there that is anywhere near where your imagination is going. So you're starting from scratch. And that's a true entrepreneur to me. They can actually visualize something that there is nothing there, like Airbnb, for instance. I mean, it's just, a big hotel, a big, index of hotels. And yet we've had indexing and catalogs of pizza parlors, the nearest McDonald's. And it was just the same thinking, but completely different space. Uber, another one. I mean, anyone been to New York, you get in a cab and you get in a traffic jam. So Uber doesn't own anything apart from some very clever software.
I'm going to disagree on one point, Neville.
You're allowed.
There were things out there that precursed Facebook. Mark made it better. There were things out there that precursed Apple. There was never a desktop PC quite like it, but we had Commodore, and the other one's not going to come to my head right now because that's taking me way back to my youth days. And we know what happens to those brain cells. The great entrepreneurs that we honor took an idea and improved it in such a way that it redefines that segment. And that's what we can do. So I just pulled up another Einstein quote, because as you were talking, it reminded me when he writes, everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree,
Yeah.
It will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. And that's where limiting beliefs come in. When we're told you can't do that, or that's not how it's been done, then we're socialized to put those kind of boundaries so we don't cross that boundary. And true Imagineers cross that boundary and go, why not? I mean, I used to get into trouble when I was working with technologists and asking questions to get ready for a press release or something, and I would say, why did it take so long? And then they would have to explain to me all of the limitations that they had to jump over so that I could figure out what were those key benefits. But they would get mad at me when I go, why are you asking that? I go, because I want to know why it took so long. Why aren't we already doing this? What did you do that was the genius of it? But it was because I was asking them from a completely different perspective that they got a little uncomfortable. And that's the part about imagination. It sometimes makes us uncomfortable to see the change. It's so much easier to stay in that moment of stasis, but to see the change, to follow through and to make it happen, that's the genius.
So
yes, Mirza?
the growth always happens outside of your comfort zone. Being outside of your comfort zone is supposed to be our new comfort zone. Goes back to what you were saying. At the end of the day, imagination is all about challenging your self-imposed limiting beliefs that are holding you hostage in a jail cell, in prison cell, in a cage cell of your mind. We need to break those bars and shackles and overcome and become and free ourselves from ourselves. And once you have that barrier-free thinking, you are limitless, you're fearless, you're unbeatable, unstoppable. Then you train your mind to see the opportunity in every adversity. There is an opportunity. That is the nurturing, conducive, fostering mindset that we have to grow, to imagine something and to overcome, to be someone and overcome and become someone. That is the journey from point A to point B. You may feel imposter because anything that you do for the first time, it will be like, you're pushing through the obstacle, but through the fear. And fear is what? Face everything and rise about the problem that you're facing. Fail is what? First attempt in learning. And is what? Effort will never be denied, and overcoming and becoming. And it's driven by the imagination, the grit and stamina, the entrepreneurial energy that takes something out of nothing. So yeah, limiting beliefs are supposed, at every level, you're going to have a new limiting belief. At every level. It's just like life is all about journey. It's not a destination. Backed and fueled by our imagination and overcoming and becoming someone. Carla.
I mean, I was kind of thinking what my life is looking like right now. And it is overcoming all kinds of things going on from
look how far you've come with the Giggle Fest, and it's amazing, Carla. That was in your mind. Now it's in reality. You see that?
It's growing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I went from 0 subscribers to 412 subscribers, and I'm like, I wanted to be more, but I'm so happy that I was able to find these 412 people.
Now, question for you, Carla, here on your own panel. Imagine the Carla version 0.0 and imagine the Carla now. You see the difference, right? This Carla is on a next level. She vibrates on a different frequency and a wavelength. She's on power because she overcame and became. So that was my question.
The Carla who left the school system,
yeah,
I don't even know anymore.
There you go.
And she would never have been doing what I'm doing now.
See?
So yeah.
So it's not the result that is important. It's who we become in the process. That's all there is to it.
I am hoping the dog isn't doing what I think he's doing. Please.
Well, use your imagination and you'll be fine.
One of the questions that I find really enlightening when I'm talking to somebody and they say, well, that's not the way we've ever done it. The question I like to come back with is, how is that working for you? And if it's working fine, just leave it. But if it's not, that's when you have to to say, okay, let's change your thoughts. Let's figure out what will work for you. And that takes imagination on a very practical level, to start to solve a problem and find a solution and then grow from that solution. And I think it's important to point that out, because I go back to, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, that fish is going to believe it's stupid. Well, there's nobody that's really stupid. We all have talents. We just need to unlock them. And that seems to be the big conundrum for many of us.
In my journey with Freyhen, I speak to so many different people. And I get so frustrated when someone says, I am only a housewife, I have nothing to give. Or I am only a web designer, but I haven't gotten any jobs yet. I'm a loser. And they say this to me all the time. And I come back with, okay, do you want to stay a loser, or do you want to begin doing what you want to do? Do you want to dream? And sometimes they say, I can't do this. I can't go live with you. And I said, okay, that's your decision. But when you make that decision, be aware that you are limiting everything you can possibly be doing. And I kind of give up on those people. And then Rayhan brings them back to me about a year later. And I'm like, oh, no, not again.
Well,
But, it's part of that journey.
Yeah, if you think about it as phases, every time you talk to them, they change just a little. Yeah. And then they're open to a little bit more. And that's one of the things about change that imagination can help, because we have to see those changes, and yet they're hard to see. So that's going to take us into a mindset that says, all right, visualize. So if I'm driving a big boat and I want to turn it to the left, it's going to take a long time for it to turn. But if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm in a small boat and I say turn left, it goes like that. So sometimes, depending on where you're at, the change happens immediately, or sometimes it's rather worm-like, snail-like, a little bit slow. But what you've described is somebody's path to change, taking a few detours here and there. I mean, the one thing that you can teach people probably better than anybody, Carla, is if you don't have a goal, you don't know where you're going, because that's what you did even in your teaching world, teaching kids how to set goals for themselves. And I'm saying that to my son and my daughter-in-law from time to time, what's the goal? And they'll tell me, and I'll be damned, they are reaching their goals, and I'm very proud of them. But I like to kind of, be part of that conversation of where is it that you're trying to go. And I love it. And when I'm working with my coaching clients, I'm always saying, what is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you're trying to do? So when you're talking to those folks, you're helping them define that, Carla. And that's an important part of the process.
And I see a change. I mean, 2 years later, the person says, I'm ready to talk to you live. And I'm like, I can't believe it. But that's what I'm here for. Now, we do have some people who are on a definite time limit. So I would like to hear what they have to say before we close the show. Just very quick, what have you taken from the show today, Neville?
Beliefs are overpowering, typically. But I'll go back to our good friend Walt Disney, and we all know what going on a Disney ride is like. It's an experience. The ride itself lasts typically a few minutes. Queuing up could last anything up to 2.5 hours. But he's got you on the journey. So your imagination is tapped into immediately. So I just want to end on his, if you can believe it, you can do it.
I love that quote. Mirza?
It goes back to like the vision. You have to be logically aligned. You're mentally there, but then you have to put your heart into it. You have to have emotions into it. Then you have second alignment, which is emotional alignment. Then there's a third type of alignment, which is your physical alignment, that you have to take actions, imperfect actions, to get to the results, to the objective that you want in life. And then fourth type of alignment is spiritual alignment. This whole show that we have today sums up with my question asking Carla. Carla, imagine the Carla that you were before and look at the Carla that you have become now. So you saw it, you imagined it, and you walked through the journey, the path, because life is all about journey. It's not a destination. And look at the Carla, and the best is yet to come, because we are as good as we challenge ourselves in all faculties, and change is the only disruptor on this planet universe. If we are not changing, if you're not expanding, if you're not growing, we are dying. So change, and backed and fueled by the imagination, and goes back to what Gene was saying. Your vision and mission and your goal has to be very important. So then you can push past through your comparison, push past through your self-imposed limiting beliefs, mental blocks, and overcome and become like cocoon to butterfly, and you can supersede all the structure. And when I coach men, I give them a framework, a daily protocol, a regimen to follow in mind, in body, in spirit, in health, in wealth, in relationship. So we see life as a game, and we are the character. And who are you becoming? That's the question. Cocoon to butterfly. In order for you to be a diamond, just learn to be burned like a coal and overcome.
And life is definitely a game. We will be back on Tuesday with another edition of Mindful. Like always, I don't know who's going to be here on Tuesday. Oh, actually, I do. We have Ingaf Wonder. We have Roshana Price, myself, and Jean. And the topic I don't know yet, but we'll get to it. And did I forget something, Jean?
Just a reminder that we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Typically, not today because of technology, but to remind people to please share it out, share it widely, comment on either platform. That helps us with the algorithm when you share it and you comment and you like it.
And this will be posted later today. I'm not sure what time right now, but it will be posted. Thank you, Jean, for being here. Thank you, Neville and Mirza, for being here. They are gone. They needed to be gone. And we will see you again on Tuesday. Can we wave goodbye? And I'm so on you. I don't want to.